There is a strange kind of relief that comes from simply not answering, not out of anger, not as punishment to anyone, just silence, chosen on purpose. Most people are afraid of it. They mistake stepping back for falling behind, for losing relevance, for disappointing someone who was never going to be satisfied anyway. But the old Stoics understood something the modern world keeps forgetting: a mind that never rests, never truly thinks. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to show up for everyone else. It's to disappear long enough to remember who you were before you started performing. The weight of always being reachable. Nobody decides in a single moment to give their life away. It happens in small transactions. A reply sent within seconds. A favor granted without thought. A yes spoken before the question even finishes. None of it feels dangerous, because none of it looks like loss. It looks like being helpful, being dependable, being good. There was a shopkeeper who never closed his doors. Customers loved him for it. He was always there, always willing, always the one you could count on at any hour. Years passed. He grew tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. One evening, a customer asked why he looked so hollow. He said he couldn't remember the last time the shop was quiet enough for him to hear his own thoughts. He had built a life people admired and lost the one thing that made it his. This is the quiet arithmetic of constant availability. Each yes is small, the sum is enormous. A person who is reachable at every hour is, by definition, present for everyone except themselves. The mind begins answering to the world before it has answered to itself, and over time it forgets the difference between what it wants and what it's expected to want. The Stoics never called this evil. They called it inattention, the failure to notice that time, once given away, does not return. Marcus Aurelius kept reminding himself of this, because even an emperor is tempted to mistake constant demand for constant importance. Being needed is not the same as being free, and a life spent fully occupied is not the same as a life spent fully lived. The mind that forgets how to sit still. A river that is constantly disturbed cannot reflect the sky. Throw 100 small stones into it every hour, and the surface never settles long enough to show you anything true, not the clouds above it, not your own face looking down. This is what a mind looks like after years of constant interruption. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind has the power to retreat into itself and find a stillness no external circumstance can touch. It is one of his most repeated ideas, and also one of the most ignored, because retreating into the mind requires the mind to stop being colonized by everything else first. Consider two travelers on the same road. One walks while checking messages every few minutes, arriving with no memory of the scenery. The other walks in silence, and later can describe the exact color of the light at every turn. The road was identical. The experience was not. The difference was never the path. It was whether the mind was present enough to actually walk it. Most people don't lose their peace to disaster. They lose it in fragments, one notification, one obligation, one reaction at a time, until the accumulation feels like exhaustion with no clear cause. The Stoics practiced solitude deliberately, not because the world was hostile, but because a mind trained only in reaction never learns to think. Stillness isn't the absence of a busy life. It's the discipline of having one place inside you that busyness can't reach. Why silence feels like an attack at first. There is a particular kind of discomfort that only shows up in quiet rooms. A man once decided to leave his phone behind for a single weekend. By the second hour, he felt something close to panic. Not because anything was wrong, but because nothing was happening, and his mind didn't know what to do with that. By the second day, something shifted. Old arguments he thought he'd forgotten resurfaced. Small resentments he'd buried under busyness rose to the surface uninvited. He described it later as being handed a bill he didn't remember running up. This is precisely what the Stoics meant when they said the unexamined mind is a stranger to itself. Silence doesn't create discomfort. It reveals what was already there, quietly accumulating beneath the noise that used to drown it out. Most people interpret that discomfort as proof that solitude doesn't suit them. It's the opposite. Discomfort in silence is evidence of how much noise it took to keep certain truths hidden. A wound that hurts when touched was never healed by being ignored, it was only unexamined. The Stoics believed growth begins exactly where comfort ends, because comfort has no reason to ask hard questions. Only stillness does. By the third day, the man wasn't panicking anymore. He was simply thinking slowly, honestly, without an audience. He didn't find peace by escaping his life. He found it by finally sitting still long enough to look at it directly. The applause you didn't ask for. There was once a craftsman known for furniture nobody else could replicate, strange, asymmetrical, entirely his own. Customers were curious more than impressed at first. Then, one piece sold for an unusually high price, and praise arrived all at once. He began adjusting his next piece to match what people had complimented. Then, the next. Within 2 years, his workshop was full of orders and empty of anything resembling his original style. He was successful and could no longer say which ideas were his. This is the quiet cost Epictetus warned about, not praise itself, but the moment praise becomes necessary. The instant approval turns into fuel, its absence turns into famine, and a person starts building a life to be looked at rather than a life to be lived. It rarely happens through one dramatic compromise. It happens through 1,000 small adjustments, softening an opinion because disagreement felt risky, saying yes because refusal felt selfish, staying quiet because a different answer might have disappointed someone. None of these moments feel like loss in the instant they occur. But eventually, the person notices they can no longer identify their own preferences apart from what earns approval. The craftsman eventually stopped taking outside orders entirely for 6 months, making pieces nobody had asked for, simply to remember what his own hand did without an audience watching. Approval is not a currency you can spend without eventually paying for it in identity. What you build for applause you will maintain out of fear. What you build for yourself you will keep even in silence. Between the event and your reaction. Epictetus taught something almost inconveniently simple. People are disturbed not by what happens to them, but by the judgments they attach to what happens. The event and the reaction feel fused together, instant and inseparable, but they aren't. There's a gap between them, however small, and that gap is the only place freedom has ever lived. 2 people receive the exact same piece of harsh feedback in the same week. One spends 3 sleepless nights replaying it, certain it reveals some permanent flaw. The other reads it once, extracts what's useful, discards the rest, and sleeps soundly. Same words, same tone. 2 entirely different outcomes, because the words themselves never had the power. The interpretation did. This isn't about pretending difficult things don't sting. It's about noticing, eventually, that the sting and the story are 2 separate things, arriving on separate timelines. The sting is immediate and honest. The story that this proves you're not good enough, that this changes who you are, is something the mind adds afterward, often without your permission. The Stoics practiced catching that story before it hardened into belief, not suppressing the feeling, just asking, quietly, is this the event, or is this what I've decided the event means? That single pause, repeated enough times, becomes character. Not because the world gets any softer, because the space between what happens and what you do about it slowly becomes the most reliable room in the house. When people notice you've changed. An old friend once called someone he hadn't spoken to in months, expecting the usual immediate apology for the silence. Instead, He got warmth without guilt, no over-explaining, no anxious justification, just genuine presence. He hung up afterward, feeling strangely unsettled, and later admitted why. He'd grown used to being the one who was chased. Being met calmly, without performance, felt almost like distance, even though it was the opposite. This is one of the more disorienting side effects of no longer measuring relationships by frequency. People who were used to your constant response start reading your steadiness as coldness. It rarely is. It's usually the first sign that a relationship built on urgency is being replaced by one built on substance. The Stoics valued depth over volume in every part of life, and friendship was no exception. A bond that requires constant reinforcement to feel real was never especially strong to begin with. One honest conversation a month can outlast 100 anxious check-ins a week, because it isn't running on fear of silence, it's running on trust that the silence won't break anything. Not every relationship survives this shift, and that's worth being honest about. Some connections were never built on respect. They were built on your availability, and when the availability changes, so does the relationship. That's not a loss to mourn. It's information you didn't have before. What remains afterward is smaller, quieter, and considerably more real. Coming back different but more yourself. Eventually there's a day you walk the same street, greet the same people, sit through the same meetings, and nothing around you has changed, yet everything about how you experience it has. The urgency that used to follow you into every room has gone quiet. The instinct to explain yourself has lost most of its grip. What once required an immediate reaction now earns a pause instead. This is easy to misread as becoming a different person. It isn't. It's closer to what happens when you finally clean a window you'd stopped noticing. It was dirty. Nothing about the glass changed, only what you can now see through it. The patience, the judgment, the steadiness were never absent. They were simply buried under years of reacting instead of reflecting. There's an old idea, echoed by more than one Stoic in more than one century. You don't build character by adding something new. You build it by removing what was never truly yours, the habits adopted for approval, the opinions borrowed to avoid conflict, the constant motion mistaken for progress. Disappearing for a while was never about escaping your life. It was about creating enough distance to see it without interference, and then choosing, deliberately, what deserves to come back with you. The world will keep asking for more of your time, more of your attention, more of your instant response. Some of that you'll give freely, because it matters. The rest you'll finally know how to set down, not with guilt, but with the quiet certainty of someone who has already found what they were looking for.